Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Rama. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. Continuing the same topic again of peace prayer by Omkarji Maharaj. A few more words of his can be gone through. It gives some additional clarity. We did not concentrate much on the word adorable. Peace prayer, according to Swami Maharaj, unites the individual with the universe. It's a prayer that makes you feel the presence of God. Not in the uncertain future, but right now, as you repeat. But you have to repeat the simple peace prayer with all strength of your heart and soul. You feel God's presence now and here, the very cells of your being. When you repeat the word presence, you are filled and surrounded by the holy presence, which is the only reality pervading and permeating the very cells of not only your being, but also the whole universe, from the tiniest atom to the biggest planet. It should be one-to-one, no? It's not the recital of the prayer. How can we feel the presence? Because every cell of our universe, it is there. The attention should be drawn to the tiniest cells in our body. That which makes the whole thing as an individual. When we say adorable presence, who is within and without. Though yesterday we made a mention about the Ekasloki, Shankaracharya. We would like to repeat it. Kim Jodistava Bhanuman Hanime Ratrau Pradipatikam Syadevam Revidiva Darshana Vidhau Kim Jodi Rakyahime Chakshustasya Nilanadi Samaye Kim Dhir Dhiyo Darshane Kim Tatrahamato Bhavan Paramagam Jodistadasmi Prabhu. First question was, Kim Tava Jyoti? What is the source of light for you? The Acharya asked the disciple. The disciple says to me, during the day, it is the lofty sun. At night, it is the lamp and the light. Let it be so. Again, he is asking, tell me, in seeing the sun and the lamp, what is the source of illumination? Disciples say, oh, that is the eye. Again, the Acharya asks, what then when the eye is closed? Eye of the eye, long yesterday. We again go through the prayer. power of the presence, thou who art within, above and all around, thou who art interpenetrating the very cells of our being, thou who art the eye of our eyes, the ear of our ears, the heart of our hearts, the mind of our minds, the breath of our breaths, the soul of our souls. Precious dear God, so here, who is now, in seeing the sun and the lamp, what is the source of illumination? He says, that is the eye. Acharya asks, what then when that eye is closed? The disciple, oh, it is the intelligence, buddhi. Acharya says, all right, what reveals the intelligence and its functions? Passes for a moment, goes inside. Ah, coming to that, it is my own self, big eye. Acharya confirms, well, your own self is then the supreme brilliance, the ultimate light, the first and the last source of illumination. Is it not? He confirms, disciple, yes, O Lord, it is so. I am that. It's a beautiful slogan. When he say the eye of the eye, he should have simply trying to understand something. That we can do some reflection on this. Same way we practice. How do we see during the daytime? Because of the sun. Night because of the light. And how am I in a position to see the sun and the lamp or the light in the night? Because of my eyes. How do I see how does the eye function? It is because of the buddhi, intelligence. How do I know that it is there? Only it stops everything with just a revelation. Because up to that, we can try to have the subject-object relationship. And afterwards, suddenly the object is not there. This sort of reflection, if it accompanies with prayer, or in other words, this prayer touches and generates, prompting to go on this line. Then the one-to-one becomes more and more. Otherwise, it stays at the superficial level. Every day we repeat. We were wondering why, without knowing this, we were asked to repeat at the ashram. Because right from the day we started coming here, we used to hear this. Even Dhanya Ho, pretty slogan, and finally ending with I'm seeing you wherever I look. Ajya Stali He Manajaya Maje. All those things, we were not knowing Marathi. So later on we tried to find out the meaning. And then every time we feel we are just repeating that all. We are absolutely back to ourselves. To be honest, sincere. Though we say, I see you wherever I lay my head, it is on your lap. Whatever form I see, it is yours. All those things I may just repeat it, that's all. Then we were wondering why Papa Mataji wanted us to repeat something which we are not. Then intuitively they answer. We will try to know about the theme only when we start doing something, otherwise how will we know? Initially, then we remember when we were children, we were taught by our mother and father some bhajan, some slogas, some invocations. We never asked any meaning. And later on, proportionate to the intensity we have developed, or God has blessed us with the devotion, either He facilitates by Himself or He makes us to look at somebody who gives us some clarity on this. But all started without any idea. Similarly, Papa Mataji also meant that as time passes on, we will try to find out behind everything that we are asked to do here, how does it connect ourselves with the constant remembrance of God? So their idea is that whatever disciplines or routine that have been suggested in this ashram, it is ultimately to make ourselves aware of God's presence always. So with that bhavana, when we look at Vishnu Sahasranam in the morning, or in the solo Ram Nam in the morning, or the Guru Stuti, or the chorus Ram Nam and flower offering, or Arunara Shiva, Om Namah Shivaya, or Hare Ram, or Bhajan, or again Ram Nam, or again Arati, we find there is a link. Whenever we attend that program, there is a if there is a intense effort on our part, we can consciously connect ourselves to God. So now again kindly think about it. This is possible only when we do some internal reflection. It cannot come from outside. Collectively, if we hear and go, it may not strike to us at all. Not that we don't want to. It will not strike to us at all. We are happy when we join the program. Every day, normally previously, I don't know now, be allotted to somebody. That person feels, today I'm going to read. Eh? You continue. I continue. Just like Arati, if somebody writes the Arati, they have some satisfaction. Similarly, somebody reads, they have some satisfaction. Beyond that, initially that should be there, but should not be satisfied only with that. Because it doesn't make me to remember him constantly. What is needed is a constant remembrance. So in that way, this sloka helps us a lot. Kim jodistava bhanumanahani ratro pratipadikam yadevam pravidiva darshana vido kim jodi rakhyagimi chakshustasya nimeedanadi samaye kim dhir dhiyo darshane kim taprahamatam ado bhavan paramakam jodistava. Whenever we repeat anything about this, eye of the eye, jodishama vijodi, natatra suryo bhadi, so many mantras are there where we are told about light. God is expressed in the form of light. Sense awareness. Just like he said, the light starts from the light, ends with the awareness absolute, consciousness absolute. So Omkarji Maharaj's prayer is instrumental for all of us to think on those lines. Similarly, when we go through Mahatmaji's life, who gives a lot of importance of prayer, there are some portions we will share with you all. Prayer really is complete meditation and melting into the higher selves. Though one occasionally does lapses into implorations like that of a child to his father. Then another dimension. Prayer really is complete meditation and melting into the higher self. I would not call it lapse. It is more in the fitness of things to say that I pray to God who exists somewhere in the clouds, and the more distant he is, the greater is my longing for him. And I find myself in his presence in thought. Initially, with God is separate, because I am separate, he is separate. So first I am trying to bring him in the form of a thought to pray. The nearness starts, the process of nearness starts when I start bringing him first into my thought. And thought has a greater velocity than light. Therefore, the distance between me and him, though so incalculably great, is obliterated. He is so far and yet so near. There is an eternal struggle raging in man's breast between the powers of darkness and light. And he who has the sheet anchor of prayer to rely upon will not be a victim to powers of darkness. Every word comes from his own experience. Like Mahatmaji does not always quote any Shastra. First he experiments and then only he gives it out. So there is an eternal struggle raging in man's breast between the powers of darkness and light, and he who has the sheet anchor of prayer that protects to rely upon will not be a victim to power of darkness. The man of prayer will be at peace with himself and with the whole world. And the man who goes about the affairs of the world without a prayerful heart will be miserable. It also make the world miserable. It's a universal experience that every calamity brings a sensible man down on his knees. He thinks that it is God's answer to his sins and he must henceforth behave better. We remember one episode shared to us by Swami. There was an out and out atheist, but a good person. He was feeling that under the name of God, people are misled, people become idle, people become unproductive, uncreative, and a sort of escapism also wells up in them. So he wrote a big board in big letters. God is nowhere. And that board was displayed at the entrance of his house. Days, months, weeks, years passed. There were so many ups and downs in his life. Suddenly, successive failures started visiting him. Initially he had the will to bear everything. But slowly, because of its succession, he slowly got diluted and he started becoming frustrated, miserable. And one day when he came from the office with a totally dispirited attitude, he was sitting. Everything was blank for him now. There doesn't seem to be any way out. At that time, the school-going boy came from the school. Suddenly he saw the father sitting with a gloomy face, totally dejected. What happened, Daddy? He said, you can't understand. Tell me now. Again, he kept on. Father finally said, everything is upside down. I have nobody now to fall back up. Everywhere I have went and knocked. It was all negative. I have absolutely nobody. Immediately the boy said, Daddy, you have written the word there. God is now here. No, I did not write like that. You yourself have written. Show me. The boy went and showed him. God is, space is there. At the time of writing, NOWHERE was written in one word. But somehow after the NOW, there was a space. For a person in his mind, nowhere, he will only read it as nowhere. But the boy did not read it as nowhere. N-O-W-H-E-R. God is now here. That was the eye of revelation to them. Right? So even in the assertion, because it is the truth, it cannot be negated. It is there. It's a universal experience that every calamity brings a sensible man down on his knees. That's really remember. He thinks that it is God's answer to his sins, and he must henceforth behave better. His sins have left him hopelessly weak, and in his weaknesses, he cries out, God for help. Thus, millions of human beings use their personal calamities for self-improvement. 99%. Even in Papa's case, when failure after failure after failure started mounting, then when he cried, where is rest, where is relief? Then he heard, trust me. Prayer is the only means of bringing about orderliness and peace and repose in our daily acts. Something we should understand. Prayer is not for just repeating it. That's why Gandhiji was very regular in his prayer. Whatever may be his attitude or involvement, whether in Varda or in Sabarmati or in Delhi or wherever he visited, at that particular time, 5 o'clock means he will be there for the prayer. When we read all those things and when we visit those places, we remember the value of the prayer, power of the prayer. Because he says prayer is the only means of bringing about orderliness and peace and repose in our daily act. He who hungers for the awakening of the divine in him must fall back on prayer. He who hungers for the awakening of the divine in him must fall back on prayer. But it is not a repetition of an empty formula. This word we should underline in our heart. Prayer is not a repetition of an empty formula. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without. When we read this, we should know whether at the time of rendering the prayer, whether we are one with the theme or it's only heart is somewhere, words are somewhere. It is not a repetition of an empty formula. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without a heart. It must be clear. It must be in clear response to the spirit which hungers for it. Prayer must be in response to the spirit which hungers for it. That means the contact should be there. And even as a hungry man relishes a hearty meal, a hungry soul will relish a heartfelt prayer. And I am giving you a bit of my experience and that of my companion when I say that he who has experienced the magic of prayer may do without food for days together, but not a single moment without prayer. You all know we used to take 21 days fast. I am giving you a bit of my experience and that of my companions when I say that he who has experienced the magic of prayer may do without food for days together, but not a single moment without prayer. For without prayer, there is no peace. Prayer is no flight of eloquence. It is no lip homage. It springs from the heart. Dimension. If therefore we achieve the purity of the heart, when it is emptied of all but love. If we keep all the chords in proper tune, they trembling pass in music out of sight. Trying to locate where from Gandhiji got it. It's from a poem from Tennyson. To decipher its meaning, it took a lot of time. Even we don't know whether they are right in inference, but we can do something nearer to it. If we keep all the chords in proper tune, when we tune ourselves with God, then we hear, then we feel the presence of God with no dissipation whatsoever. We get tuned to His. I have not the slightest doubt that prayer is an unfailing means of cleansing the heart of passions, but it must be combined with utmost humility. Prayer, another dimension, absolutely a new dimension of what is giving through Gandhiji. It's an unfailing means of cleansing the heart. I'm unable to cleanse myself. I know the dirt is there. I know that only after cleansing it I can feel your presence. Our prayer is a heart search. It's a reminder to ourselves that we are helpless without His support. It is a reminder to ourselves that we are helpless without His support. No effort is complete without prayer, without a definite recognition that the best human endeavor is of no effect if it has not God's blessing behind it. Prayer is a call to humility. It's a call to self-purification. Prayer is a call to humility. It's a call to self-purification. And the very first effort at such a living prayer is very important. Very important. As soon as we pray, just like on the light comes. Normally we expect we pray it should come next day or at the same time. We have to strive against ourselves. We have to believe in spite of ourselves because months are as our years. We have therefore to cultivate illimitable patience if we will realize the efficacy of prayer. Here we remember one episode of a temple boy. Since the time Ramu was a young boy, 9 years old, his only job was to ring the bell in the ancient Shiva temple several times a day during puja. His father, grandfather, etc., had all served in the temple as bell ringers. Ramu had grown in the tradition and from childhood used to love Lord Shiva as his own. Whenever he rang the bell continuously for nearly half an hour each time, he used to forget himself and become one with the resonant sound of Om emanating from the bell, which he used to consider as a form of Lord Shiva himself. Another dimension. We also hear. Do we hear this? We treat it as a sound of a bell. He was paid a decent salary and given adequate quantity of prasad to meet the needs of himself and his family. In due course, the fame of the temple and the powers of the Lord's Vibhuti to cure incurable diseases of people spread far and wide. Not only had the devotees from all parts of India, but a number of foreign visitors too began to throng the temple. By that time, a new board of trustees took over the management of the temple. In order to cater to the increasing needs of the elite and educated visitors from the states, as also the foreign visitors, they introduced various reforms in the temple. In its wake, they passed an order that all employees of the temple, irrespective of their cadre or nature of job, should be able to converse, read, write English fluently. And all the old employees who could not fulfill this requirement were to be retired forthwith with an additional salary for 1 month as compensation in lieu of notice. Ramu was now 40 years old and had a fair sized family. He was totally illiterate and could not read or write even his mother tongue Hindi, not to speak of English. He pleaded hard with the authorities to exempt him from the operation of the latest order for learning English. Where else could he get an employment at this age? He did not know any other job or trade apart from ringing the temple bill. Well, the authorities turned a deaf ear to his plea and released him from their employment after paying rupees 100 as an additional month's salary. Ramu, in sheer despair, went inside the temple, began to rail and rant, standing before Lord Shiva's statue. Now, we were just reading this word, that's why it struck us. Gandhiji says, success does not always attend the very first effort at such a living prayer. We have to strive against ourselves. We have to believe in spite of ourselves. We have therefore to cultivate illimitable patience if we will realize the efficacy of the prayer. With what devotion and love have I served you all these years? He was praying, he was complaining. I had completely surrendered myself to you. Is this the reward I get for my devoted service? Have you no compassion? Have you also imbibed the heart of the stone idol from which you have manifested? How do you deserve to be called Karuna Sagara? Spy on me, who has been foolishly depending on a God who is not capable of helping anybody. Virodha Bhakti, this is called Virodha Bhakti. Not that he is less than devotion. Ramu started walking aimlessly on the Mall Road, which was 3 kilometers or so long. He badly wanted to smoke a cigarette, but on the entire road there was not a single shop where he could buy one. He felt frustrated. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. Why should I not open a cigarette shop on his own? He negotiated a small shop on rent, stocked it with cigarette beedies, pan suparis, toffees, peanuts, candies, notebooks, ball pens for school children. He flourished beyond expectation, and within a couple of years opened 3 or 4 shops more in various parts of Meerut. One day, the general manager of the bank, where Ramu used to deposit his money, called for him. With all deference due to the rich customer, he pointed out that several lakhs of rupees were lying in his savings bank account, earning a low rate of interest, while if a substantial portion of it could be invested in fixed deposits, bonds, etc., more interest benefits would accrue. Ramu confessed his ignorance about financial matters, agreed to abide by the advice of the banker. Accordingly, the general manager himself filled up the several application forms for distributing the deposits over various investments. He then handed over his Parker pen to Ramu to enable him to sign the various forms. Poor Ramu humbly returned the pen to the officer as he did not know how to sign his name, being illiterate, and requested him to give a ink pad so that he could put his thumb impression on all the documents. The general manager stared at him in disbelief. As an illiterate, you have amassed so much wealth. What would you have been had you only learned to read and write? The simple Ramu replied, I would have continued to ring the bell in Lord Shiva's temple, earning rupees 100 per month. Now Ramu understood that whatever God does, it is for our ultimate good, and no master can ever equal him in his generosity and kindness. Glory be to the ever-loving God. So it is not that immediately it will be answered. Gandhiji says something, it is corroborated through another incident. That is why he said illimitable patience. When we all go back to our own life, we find so many such instances. Immediately after the prayer, it would not have been fulfilled. But later on, he brings about various other circumstances by which our prayers are answered. Probably not in the way in which we pray, but ultimately it has been answered. It may take time for the recitation to come from the heart. Very practical, you know. Even as a seed sown has to be nurtured and bears fruit only in due season. If the desire to have God within us is there, progress, however slow, is bound to be. Progress, however slow, is bound to be. Man cannot be transformed from bad to good overnight. God does not exercise magic. He too is within his own law. His law, however, is different from the law of the state. There may be mistakes in the latter, but God cannot err. If he were to go beyond the limits of his law, the world would be lost. He is changeless, unchanging, unequal, the same yesterday, today, and forever. His law is written on the tablets of their heart. They could become changed men and women only if they had the desire to reform and if they are prepared for ceaseless endeavor. There can be no fixed rule laid down as to the time these devotional acts should take place. It depends upon individual temperaments. There are precious moments in one's daily life. The exercises are intended to sober and humble us and enable us to realize that nothing happens without His will and that we are but clay in the hands of the potter. These are moments when one reviews one's immediate past, confesses one's weaknesses, asks for forgiveness and strength to be and to do better. 1 minute may be enough for some. 24 hours would be too little for others. The intensity, the decoction, the coffee, we find that. To prepare a cup of coffee, we don't need a cup of decoction. Essence. 1 minute may be enough for some. Pujya Swamiji, in one of his last work, he has written, he was not doing Ram Nam throughout. But whenever he does Ram Nam, even though for a short time, it was intense, the impact of which will be there throughout. Whole soul, mindful, concentrated, focused, standing with the right frame of mind. 1 minute may be enough for some, 24 hours would be too little for others. For those who are filled with the presence of God in them, to labor is to pray. The life is one continuous prayer or act of worship. Finally, it should become like Baba. The life is one continuous prayer or act of worship. For those who act only to sin, to indulge themselves, and to live for self, no time is too much. If they had patience and faith and the will to be pure, they would pray till they feel the definite purifying presence of God within them. For us ordinary mortals, there must be a middle path between these two extremes. We are not so exalted as to be able to say that all our acts are a dedication, nor perhaps are we so far gone as to living purely for self. Hence have all religions set apart times for general devotion. I begin the prayer. I believe, finally he closes, I believe that prayer is the very soul and essence of religion. Religion means spirituality. And therefore, prayer must be the very core of life of man. Finally, he puts the stamp. Prayer must be the very core of life, man. Begin therefore your day with prayer. Make it so soulful that it may remain with you until evening. Close the day with prayer so that you may have a peaceful night free from dreams and nightmares. Do not worry about the forms. Let it be any form. It should be such as can put us in communion with the divine. Only let not the spirit wander. Only let not the spirit wander while the words of prayer run on your mouth. Begin therefore your day with prayer and make it so soulful that it may remain with you until evening. And again, close the day with prayer so that you may have a peaceful night free from dreams and nightmares. Do not worry about the form. Let it be any form. It should be such as can put us in communion with the divine. Only let not the spirit wander while the words of prayer run on out of your mouth. So many new dimensions Maharaji has given. Just for a recap, nature of the prayer. He says it is really a complete meditation and melting into the higher self. Though we may be adding a few words, he said. Another thing he said was, we may be thinking he is away from us. So first we are bringing him in the form of a thought. So the nearness is felt. Because as a thought has got a greater velocity, you see. And he says, though the struggle will be going on, but the prayer, sheet anchor, it should be there with us. Then we are protected. Even while we are in household work or official, professional work or social work, there could be pause moments, that's what Gandhiji means, where we immediately become aware of the sheet anchor. Calamities, Papa used to say this, it does not happen just like that. It is to turn us towards God. We remember one person. Apparently, he will be a devotee, but not very deep. Very much thinks that one can do everything by oneself. We were staying with him sometime. But morning he gets dressed, pant, shirt, coat, sorry, tie, everything. Every day he changes his clothes. But he will stand with all the dress, he will stand before his parents' photo for a second or two. Then he, with all the shoe, everything. But still, I used to observe base in the heart. It is there. The longing is there. The pining is there to connect ourselves with him. Immediately after that, the me and mine comes and rules over. But every now and then, God in his own mercy just opens the aperture and comes out, even for a fraction of a second. Prayer is the only means of bringing about orderliness and peace and repose in our daily act. When we go to the puja room, temple, we wash ourselves, make ourselves clean as much as possible. We go in an orderly way. If we are talking, we will stop the talking. We'll be following the rules there automatically. And whatever may be the see nature of the temple, the authorities concerned may not be able to allow us to stay there for 2 seconds. But still, even 1 second they will permit. Not that they cannot. So many people are waiting. Suddenly, then we start remembering. Is for this purpose I came? No. The real joy is you are on the queue. If you are really thinking and praying and thinking and praying and thinking and praying, and when your turn comes before the sanctum sanctorum or the deity, the thrill is there. Otherwise, in the same mind, you will be missing. That's all. Grumbling and complaining. That's why he said, prayer is the only means of bringing about orderliness, peace, repose in our daily life. He who hungers for awakening of the divine being must fall back on prayer. Must fall back. And he here gently, bluntly, he says, it is not a repetition of an empty formula. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without heart. Even we need not be aware of the words or mentally we repeat. It must be in a clear response to the spirit which hungers for it. He says, I am giving you a bit of experience that he who has experienced the magic of prayer may do without food for days together, not a single moment without prayer. For without prayer, there is no peace. Elsewhere, he will say, putting my hand on my breast, I can say, not a moment goes without remembering him. And to make it more clear, he says, prayer is no flight of eloquence. It is no lip homage. It springs from the heart. If we achieve the purity of the heart, when it is emptied of all but love, if we keep all the chords in proper tune, then we hear. The real purpose is served. Prayer needs no speech. I have not the slightest doubt that prayer is an unfailing means of cleansing the heart of passions. But it must be combined with utmost humility. Our prayer is a heart search. It's a reminder to ourselves that we are helpless without His support. No effort is complete without prayer. Prayer is a call to humility. It's a call to self-purification. And success need not come immediately after the prayer. We have to therefore cultivate illimitable patience if we will realize the efficacy of the prayer. We saw in the boys, Though for a moment he was shaken. Whatever he has done, it will not go in vain. Papa always used to say that. None of our efforts will go in vain. I have not understood the meaning, I have been chanting. It will not go in vain. And we can see the way in which how he took the boy, illiterate boy who was hardly earning 100 rupees, was made instrumental in opening so many shops and handling so many things. At the same time, the boy was retaining, that man was retaining humility. That was the only price tag attached to it. Through that episode, he was so simple and innocent. The bank manager asked him, he said, give me a stamp pad. And if I had studied, I would be like this. God made me to do this. Finally, period of prayer. We have to find out our own. So early in the morning, whenever we get up, Gandhiji wants all of us to pray. Pray to have his constant remembrance. And he says the impact should be there, remain with you until evening. And you close your life's business at night with a prayer. I believe that prayer is the very soul and essence. Therefore, prayer must be the very core of the life of man. We have a few minutes. We are asked to remember him constantly so as to become aware of his grace. It is not a new thing that we have to attain. When we are aware of his grace, we know we are the self. Our prayer to God must be to give us this awareness. Surrender denotes a life of perfect contentment. A man of surrender has no prayers to make to God for himself. Nothing to pray. No? He is perfectly satisfied with God and what God has given him. He is ever peaceful. Prayer should, that means prayer should end. Zero to surrender. Oh God, I do not know how to surrender. Give me continuous remembrance by which the ego may be put down and surrender may become a reality. By such prayer and constant remembrance of Him, we can eliminate the ego sense, which is very strong, which asserts itself, controls us. He is perfectly satisfied with what God has given. In this connection, there's a beautiful prayer in while giving commentaries on Bhajagovindam. The stanza for Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jatareshayanam. At the time of taking up this, Pujya Swami Chinmayandaji Maharaj made this prayer. Very touching prayer. Even after so many decades, it is still fresh in our mind because of the way in which he put it. And it is really a fact, but every word of it. The prayer begins like this. The ego born out of me has now become a mighty power, ruling over me relentlessly. And in front of this usurper of my bosom, I am but a slave. To free myself from this great inner tyrant, I need now a mighty friend, a powerful and sympathetic friend. And who can it be except you, my Lord? Save me. Help me, please. Even here, what right have I? The slave of my own passions, the non-believer all these years, to seek your help now? True, I have no face to meet thee. O Lord, I have nothing to offer thee except my own tears. I have nothing to claim for myself except the fatigue of my indulgence, the stink of my selfish acts, the sweat of my passions, and the cost of my attachment. In fact, I don't deserve to be saved. Yet, Lord, I am tired, beaten out completely. exhausted thoroughly, repentant fully, helpless wholly. I surrender myself to thee and to thy grace. I claim a hearing and accept help from thee. Are not thou the ocean of Kripa, of grace, of kindness, and of love? Won't thou, in thy kindness, take pity on me and once more destroy the old enemy Mura in my bosom, the bundle of my own wretched vasanas? Murari, Hari of Mura. Once again, we will read. That means the humility should come to that action, not a mere word. It should come from our identifying our total life. We are not that God does not know, but as an act of purification, we place completely before Him. Then only He will take it up and clean it. Not that He does not know, not that He does not want to purify without our asking, but this is the law He has kept. Whether are you in a position to place it before me, your entire balance sheet, your inner contents, by yourself. The ego born out of me has now become a mighty power, ruling over me relentlessly. And in front of this usurper of my bosom, I am but a slave. To free myself from this great inner tyrant, I need now a mighty friend, powerful and sympathetic friend. Who can it be except you, my Lord? Save me. Help me, please. And even here, what right have I? The slave of my own passions, the non-believer all these years, seek your help now. True, I have no face to meet thee. O Lord, I have nothing to offer thee except my own tears. I have nothing to claim for myself except fatigue of indulgence, the stink of my selfish acts, the sweat of my passions, the cords of my attachment. In fact, I don't deserve to be saved, yet, Lord, I am tired, beaten out completely, exhausted thoroughly, repentant fully, helpless wholly. I surrender myself to thee and thy grace. I claim a hearing. Bhakta Valsala, no? You are a Bhakta Rakshaka. I claim a hearing and expect help from thee. Are not thou the ocean of Kripa, of grace, of kindness, of love? Won't thou in thy kindness take pity on me and once more destroy the old enemy Mura in my bosom, the bundle of my own wretched vasanas? So Papa has been facilitating us to see the different facets, different dimensions of prayer, so that we get we start seeing, So many words we have heard now for the past 3, 4 days. And after the sieving is over, what remains is the core, the purpose for which the prayer is done, the method in which the prayer is offered, and finally, what should be the one word we can say total dependent, accepting the Almighty Lord of the universe as the supreme, number one. Number two is surrendering everything to Him, accepting every situation as ordained by Him. Yes. But Papa has given all these clarity for the past 3, 4 days, and we now pray to Him, having given us all. We by ourselves cannot make use of it fully, unless and until you now, who is in the form of remembrance, keep on reminding us whenever we go off the track, put us back on the track, and enable us to proceed faster towards the goal. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Maharaj, Hari Om.